is going to cover the South Outer community area, but there are some more general slides. And then once we finish up, I can answer any question you may have, even if it's about a different area, or I can point you in the direction of the room that might, cover your area more specifically. But I'll start here with some overview information. So again, this particular presentation is going to walk through the South Outer Community Area Plan and discuss how it may impact you and your community. So, the reason for developing the community area plans is that Charlotte has been continuously growing for decades and it's projected to keep on growing. So, in response to this projected growth, our city adopted the Charlotte Future 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and that happened in 2021. And that defines our 20-year vision for growth and change in Charlotte. So, that's what I was referring to a moment ago when I was talking about kind of that vision plan for the future of Charlotte. And while the comprehensive plan does provide that broad vision for our community, there's other levels of guidance that were needed to make that vision come to life. So this is the planning framework on the screen that was adopted within the comprehensive plan, and it defines the subsequent levels of guidance that are needed. So level two is what we call strategic plans, and those are citywide documents that provide more details than the comprehensive plan on any particular topic. So, for example, something called the Strategic Mobility Plan that provides more guidance on how to realize a goal within the comprehensive plan that speaks to creating safe and equitable mobility. And then level three of this framework is the community area plans, which is what we're discussing today. And they provide more guidance for the appropriate land uses, building form, infrastructure, things like that that are needed throughout those community area plan geographies. And that's that kind of smaller scale planning that I was speaking to a moment ago as well. So, community area plans are essentially about creating complete communities. So, when we say that, we're talking about, creating places that really integrate housing, job opportunities, daily goods and services, all of those, factors in an equitable, accessible manner. So, in other words, where you live, work, and play, creating that environment creating it in a complete way. So, community area plans were developed with a five-phase process that has occurred over 2 years. Staff has offered multiple engagement opportunities throughout each phase, and the outcomes of each phase have been shared along the way. So, this slide really summarizes the engagement efforts that we have taken on throughout the project, phase one through phase four. So we've reached over 400,000 residents, both online and in person, and we've been using a range of constant and coordinated tactics. So this includes things such as our social media posts, our website, all of the online interactive content that we've produced, things like story maps, videos, all of that information is, counted in that 400,000. And then while virtual interactions are great, we still really value those in-person interactions, and we've been able to interact with around 6,000 people throughout the project. For this particular planning effort, we've hosted 50 workshops in which we asked residents to join us and provide their impact, but we also made an effort to reach people where they are by attending already existing meetings, festivals, libraries, things like that. So you can really see the geographic dispersion of our in-person interactions on the map on the right of the screen. And then throughout phases one and four, we received approximately 1,700 comments, and those have helped shape the draft plans. So we've taken everybody's input and really tried to use that to help shape the narrative that is in these plans. I'd also like to mention that this engagement does build upon the feedback that we received throughout the 500,000 interactions that we got through the comp plan. So all of this feedback and input has been building upon itself for years now. Sorry, excuse me. Um, So the plans were developed using a systematic process, meaning they were developed in the same way and they will have the same components and formats within them. And while they're developed systematically, each plan includes both unique content that reflects the individual character of that geography, as well as some new common policy guidance that helps achieve our vision. So these plans provide a common set of consideration for all decision makers, and that way, it ensures that we're consistently evaluating options in line with the city's vision. And over time, these considerations will help ensure that growth is accommodated in a way that respects established neighborhoods, aligns growth with our infrastructure capacity, and creates vibrant mixed-use centers for all. So, this is a screenshot of the South Otter. Oh, so sorry, my computer's freezing. So this is a screenshot from the South Outer geography, which is what we're talking about in this particular breakout room. Here you can see a table of context within that plan. And if you look at other plans, you'll see the same content and organization, like I just referenced on the last slide. But each plan is tailored a little bit to each particular geography. So each plan begins with an overview of the area's profile, including a summary of projected residential units and new jobs, as well as a comparison of local demographics to citywide demographics. And then the next chapter outlines the geography's greatest needs and prioritized goals. So the needs are focused on increased access to housing choices, job opportunities, daily goods and services, and reducing environmental impact. The plans focus on these four needs because these are metrics outlined in the comprehensive plan, and they're paramount for ensuring that future growth really benefits as many people as possible. So the 10 comprehensive plan goals that were linked to these, or they were linked to these four metrics. And then if a metric scored less than 5, the associated plan goals were identified as priorities for this geography. And then chapter 4, creating complete communities, it really focuses on the recommended development patterns for the geographies. So the colors on the policy map relate to the type and intensity of development that's appropriate for that area. And then if you want to learn more about place types, you can also see the place type descriptions in the appendix. So it's important to note that the plans recommend that a large portion of the South Outer geography remain as is, meaning that if redevelopment occurs in this area, then new development, it should really match that scale and that intensity of the development that's on the ground now. And then the South Outer plan recommends that 20% of the area evolve into a different development type than what exists today. Other pages in Chapter 4 really explain how those recommended changes advance the geography's priority goals and how it addresses its greatest needs. So Chapter 5, supporting the vision, this includes a few different sections, and it also references the neighborhood toolkit. So something that we really want to highlight this evening while we're speaking to, the community is the neighborhood toolkit, and it is included in the appendix. And we really have developed it and intended it to be a reference guide for all geographies. So what it does is provides a catalog of all the great projects and programs that are currently available to residents to help address their needs. So the intent is that it is a resource that can empower neighborhoods that want to take action. For example, the toolkit outlines existing programs that neighborhoods could tap into if they wanted to amenitize a common open space in their community and develop a neighborhood park. So the toolkit is a great resource for them to look to see what type of programs the city and county and partners are already offering to help achieve that vision. And then the mobility section, that was developed in coordination with CDOT, CATS, and CRTPO. It really restates that, goal 5 in the comprehensive plan that speaks to safe and equitable mobility, and just kind of reiterates the importance of that across Charlotte. It includes a clip of the citywide streets map, which outlines the future cross section for arterial streets in Charlotte, and then smaller streets are informed by UDO regulations. And then it also summarizes the city's strategic mobility plan. And it also highlights strategic investment areas within the geography. Um, Strategic investment areas, those are a citywide investment strategy for maximizing the city's limited investment dollars in an efficient and impactful manner. So there's a lot of information in the particular sections of the plans, but hopefully it's a really helpful resource and kind of a one-stop shop to find more information about, geography specific efforts. So also within the mobility section is a new level of guidance that we're calling the mobility assessment. So this assessment evaluates how well our future mixed use places are meeting the aspirations. So the goal is that these assessments will be used by all stakeholders, whether it's residents, developers, or city officials, to inform future development and infrastructure projects within these areas. So an example of that would be if a developer wanted to rezone a site within one of these mixed-use locations, they should really look to this assessment to propose a project that improves the conditions. And then similarly to that, community members, they could evaluate one of those proposed projects against this assessment to determine if the project contributes to the area's aspirations or not. And then there's also an open space and community character chapter. Those include similar assessments, but for the sake of time, we're not going to dive into them in a great amount of detail because they're very similar to the mobility assessment. They just speak to the particular open space and community character conditions. Yes, Eric, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were waiting until the intro questions, but just a
You're
quick
fine.
question. So you said developments would try to comply with these increased needs for M1, M2, with M3, but if road expansions by CDOT and CDOT were also happening, would they also try to improve the situation for this metrics matrix?
I would think so. The main way I think that these are going to be utilized will be through the rezoning process. So there'll be another layer to the staff analysis that ties in, the policy and then these assessments. But I don't know off the top of my head that in CDOT or the any of those types of agencies would be required, but likely encouraged.
And I guess if citizens pointed out that, per this plan, there's a need there, then it would be some leverage with NCDOT and CDOT, I guess, right?
That would be the hope.
Okay.
But I can absolutely note that we're logging, and just for Eric and Greg, both of you, we are logging comments from this evening's webinar. And any questions like the one you just referenced, Eric, will be logged, and staff is responding to those individually, and we will be posting not only those questions and comments, but as well as the responses that will be vetted by city staff. Those will be posted on the 25th of July. So if there's a more detailed answer than the one I was able to provide, Eric, it will be posted online. Thank you.
Since we're stopped here for questions,
Sure.
I'm actually not in the South Outer. I'm right next to it. I'm South Outer adjacent
hmm
in the county. And my question is, and the reason I'm here is how much impact will development in this area have upon the surrounding areas? Like if something's on the border, that like you just said, the developers have to consider something. Are they going to consider something that's outside of the South Outer, or are they just going to say it's not our problem?
the goal is, it's a citywide effort. The main reason for dividing, for lack of a better term, the city into these different geographies was just to be able to provide more of a digestible um, document that could provide a little bit more geography um, specific recommendations because it's hard to plan for the city as a whole, of course, and it's hard to check everybody's boxes. So, for example, if there was a road or a development that crossed two boundaries, yes, the intent is that there would be coordination and communication because it's still the city or whatever, project
But
it
we're not
is. I'm sorry.
going to take into account collateral impact and collateral damage on the non-city areas like us.
I'm sorry, Greg, you were breaking up a little bit in the beginning. Could you repeat the very beginning of that statement?
Since I'm not in the city, we are
Hmm.
not in the city, are developers in these areas, in South Outer, for example, going to take into account when they want to do something what the collateral damage or collateral impact is going to be upon non-city areas?
Yes, I think we've heard a lot about the ETJ and how,
Hmm.
a lot of this covers those areas. So we've made some recommendations to change some of the language in some of the documents to speak to that more specifically and to, of course, encourage, smart growth and smart development and understand where the infrastructure can and cannot be supported. It's not a new issue, of course, the ETJ. Um, we've
Right.
we've heard that through a lot of planning efforts, but the main thing that I can tell you right now is that we have heard that through this effort, and we have tried to address it in the ways that we can address it as best we can.
Okay.
Greg, are you, just curious, are you in Mecklenburg County? Are
Yes.
you are you over in the Pineville side or are you on the Matthews side?
We're in South Pineville. We
Okay.
call ourselves West Ballantyne.
Ah, yeah, I know that area. There's I don't know if did you go to the meeting? There was a planning meeting.
Bridlestone.
Yeah, they had that
Yes,
meeting.
I was
So
there, Bridlestone. Yes.
yeah, so they
You guys
um
all
so,
got yelled at.
yeah. Well, I have my Charlotte. So I'm actually a
I can see.
citizen.
Okay.
I'm a citizen today. But I have my Charlotte Water shirt on. I forgot I have my shirt on, but I'm a citizen of Valentine for this meeting. But there is I was in the meeting that the way they talked about Bridal Stone. And I think the ETJ is kind of a discussion between Pineville and city planning, city of Charlotte
Right.
planning. Yeah.
Yep. So
Thank you.
technically I'm not in your South Outer, but I'm adjacent.
Well, and completely fair that you're here, and we really appreciate your participation because it definitely all relates and the development is happening. So we appreciate your input. Um, if you guys are okay, I'll just advance through the slides a little bit
Feel
more
free to
and then,
continue. Yep.
okay, great. And definitely stop me if you have any additional questions.
Okay.
Um, so I think that was it. My main wrapping this slide up was just to say that the open space and community character section of the plans have similar assessments as the mobility one, just of course open space and community character related.
Oh, one more thing. Where can we get this document? Was it?
So I can
I
provide,
got the CAP, but I didn't have this.
of course, I can provide a link to this document if you would like an online version. If you prefer hard copy, well, I'll just ask, do you prefer hard copy or virtual?
Online is fine.
Online's
Yeah.
great. Okay. Well, while we're doing that, let me just go ahead and drop the link to the plan.
My constituents will have interest in this
Of
stuff.
course, yes. And we are still, while this pulls up, it's running a little bit slow. Apologies. While it pulls up, we are still accepting comments on the draft plan documents. So the link that I send you will be a digital version of the plan, but you can also provide your feedback on that digital copy. You can just drop a pin and it will allow you to provide your feedback. And we are accepting that feedback until July 18th. So only a few
Okay.
more days, I'm sorry, but if you want to go ahead and share with your constituents, we would be happy to take any feedback that they have.
Most of them don't care since we're not in Charlotte.
Also fair.
You're the other side of the road.
Well,
Okay.
Greg, I would tell you that, Charlotte Water is a county-wide utility
Hmm.
and a department of the city. And I know water and sewer were brought up in that meeting. So, you might remind your council, or if you send something that is city specific, remind them that they also oversee Charlotte Water, which is a county-wide utility, even though it's a city department. A little confusing,
It
but
is.
it's a point that should be made, right?
Well, they're still mad at you, so it doesn't matter.
Well, that's so the list is long and distinguished, so you know.
Thank you both. Okay, that link should be in the chat. Greg, please let me know if you have trouble accessing it. In the meantime, I will continue the slides. We only have a few more. So the next section of the South Outer Community Area Plan is the Environmental Justice and Sustainability section, which really builds upon the comprehensive plan's vision to reduce environmental impact across Charlotte. Um, so this section provides a more detailed analysis of the environmental impacts within South Outer, and you can see that assessment via the dials in the top right of the screen. Um, Things like tree canopy, proximity to heavy industrial, things like that are provided in that analysis. This section also introduces heat impacts as a new environmental metric that should be considered in future decision making. So you can see that at the bottom of your screen as well. So I'm going to stop here in terms of the specific sections of the plan, but I know that there's still two more on the appendix, or excuse me, on the
Yeah.
table of contents.
Implementation and appendix, yes.
Yes, thank you. It's been a very long day. Appreciate your patience. So the implementation section, that will provide additional specific strategies for various partners and agencies to advance this work. It also contains illustrative concepts that really help to provide visualizations for how areas, that are recommended for change may evolve over time. So that section is also found in this document, as well as an appendix where you can reference any sort of methodology questions or things of that sort. That will all be found in the appendix along with the neighborhood toolkit. So a few notes for after adoption. We intend to implement the plans in multiple ways. We want to note that community area plans are also an important component of Charlotte's planning framework. They're just not the only tool in the toolbox. We're working on specific plans, and that will focus on smaller geographies and provide even more, implementation items. That have kind of come out of this community area planning effort. So that is in the toolbox and in the works for the future, hopefully. And then the final note we wanted to make was just that planning is cyclical, and we plan to monitor and update not only the community area plans, but the comprehensive plan every 8 to 10 years. And then before I open it up for any additional questions or anything you guys want to look at in more detail, we just wanted to highlight a few key dates. Like I mentioned a moment ago, that public comment period closes on Friday, July 18th, but we welcome you to provide any input, share with anybody else that you feel would want to provide comments, and we will be taking those until Friday. And then like I also mentioned, we have gone through all of the comments we've received. We've received over 900 at this point, and we are trying to be very intentional about responding to each of these comments and providing an answer to any questions or concerns that we've received throughout the process. So all of those responses and comments will be posted on our project website on July 25th. We will present to the Transportation Development or Planning and Development Committee on Monday, August 4th, and then City Council decision for adoption of these plans is to be determined. So we hope that, comes sooner rather than later, but we just don't know that date yet. So that is on the horizon. And then I will pause there for any other questions you guys have.
Yeah, as I'm looking through here, I
Hmm.
get to the community needs ratings,
Hmm.
and it's probably documented in here, but can you talk a little bit about the methodology used, about, you know, who says we have a number one priority of access to housing?
Yes. So the community needs report, it stemmed from a variety of things. We have community reports online, and I can provide you with that link as well if you would like it. But essentially, that information came from the Equitable Growth Framework, which was a piece of the comprehensive plan. So that was that overarching vision plan for the next 20 years. And it really prioritized housing, access to goods and services, things like that. So those scores for the geography stemmed out of methodology that was done based on that equitable growth framework.
which was
Well, so the equitable growth framework, like I said, it was part of the Charlotte Future 2040 comprehensive plan. And it was an analysis that was done in the pre-planning stages to determine, um, the
who says
great,
yeah,
I'm sorry?
who says we have a high priority need for access to housing?
It was methodology that was
Like,
done. I don't know. I don't want to give you inaccurate information. I was not the brains behind the analysis specifically. But there was methodology done that determined that those were priorities in terms of growing equitably as a city in the comprehensive plan. And then those were translated to the community area plan level. Let me see if I can find more information for you. We likely have a link. If not, the methodology is found in the appendix as well of the
okay,
community area plans. It may speak
because
to it
it
in more
doesn't help to
detail.
just say yeah, it doesn't help to just say this came from another report.
Completely understood. I just wasn't the brains behind that report, so let me dig for a little bit more information so I don't provide inaccurate information. There was a lot of analysis done. We had multiple consultants in. Um, Let me see what I can find to help you out.
I mean, the same is true for all of these needs and all these ratings everywhere. It's like, how was the decision made and who was involved in that decision? Was it just experts from Boston that come down here and told us, or
Right, right. I think let me actually I'm digging for a few different resources for you. Let me drop a few links in the chat that might be helpful for you. We have a resources page on our website. We also, like I said, the appendix would be very helpful, I think, in terms of the
okay,
specific methodology.
let me
Let
go
me
down to the
grab that for
appendix
you.
here.
Here we go. I'll drop the
Okay,
link to the appendix in the chat for you so you can easily access that.
okay, appendix.
Okay, that should come to you in the chat. That will speak to a lot of the methodology and detail
Okay,
behind the data. And then in terms to, I apologize, I'm looking at multiple screens here. I just want to provide
yeah,
you with
so
the
am I.
correct information. Um, in terms of the equitable growth framework, each geography's greatest needs for the future were based on the community's existing access to housing choices, job opportunities, daily goods and services, and environmental impacts. So the needs that are defined in that community needs assessment table, those are grounded in those measures because those are the measures identified by the community as helping to ensure future growth benefits as many people as possible. So that was kind of the framework behind um, those that assess or that
So is that going to be under community character?
community needs and goals. That was
There's
the
not
kind
a
of the table that you were referring to in the assessment, you mean? Let
well,
me
the
pull it up as
appendix.
well.
It's got appendixes A through H. So where would I find the methodology for those criteria, the community needs? Is it a mobility assessment methodology?
It would be in B, the Equitable Growth Framework methodology.
Okay.
So that's page 24 of the appendix.
Okay. Let me see here.
And
Okay.
again, the when you say South Outer, the greatest need is access to housing. That access to housing came from the Equitable Growth Framework methodology. So page 24 might shed some light.
Yeah.
I'm I'm not trying to provide you with short answers. I just want to make sure that I'm
Oh
providing
yeah.
you with the resources versus me trying to guess because I
Yep.
absolutely was not a mastermind behind the methodology.
Poverty rate, educational attainment, race, and age. Half mile by half mile grid cells. So I guess somebody went through every half mile and rated those four criteria and
Correct. It was
rolled it all up.
an intense methodology and an intense process. Like I said, I just wasn't involved in it in great detail, so I would rather point you in the direction of resources than guess. Um, so I apologize if that falls flat, but I'm happy to note your comment and questions, like I mentioned to Eric earlier, and those will be responded to by certain individuals that were in the depths of that methodology, and they might be
Yeah,
able to provide more
yeah, that's
context.
good. It might be helpful to have some, well, you're not going to have any more of these presentations
We have one tomorrow, but it's the exact same thing. Um,
handy when you have these presentations. But yeah, this is fine. Okay.
Hey, Aaron, I got to jump off at 6:30, but I had one hopefully quick question.
yeah, Eric.
Um, for the strategic investment areas, so there's one close to my house, of course,
Mm-hmm.
that is identified on there. It's SIA number 55, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just curious, and we've known there's an easement for a new road behind our house for since we bought it. But I'm just curious how the process is where it goes from an SIA to CDOT and kind of moves through their planning process. Do you have any insights on that?
So that is CDOT's planning process. They provided
Okay.
us with the content and the information on the SIAs, and we pulled it into the plan. So that is
Okay.
something that they're working on. My understanding is it's a pilot program, and then the hope is that it will be funded for the future as well. So any context that they or that the area plans have about SIAs was provided by CDOT. So they're the champions of that.
Okay, so if I reach out to CDOT Planning and ask them SIA 55, they'll say, yeah, here's your history. Here's what. Okay.
They
Okay.
will have more detail. Any detail that's not in the plan already that you want to know, they would have more information. Absolutely.
But they originated and you guys just brought it into your plan, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. That's all I had, and I've got to jump off, unfortunately. But
Thank
good
you.
talking to you. Good seeing you, Greg.
Thanks,
Yep.
Eric. Thanks for joining.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Bye. So pretty much everybody in Charlotte needs more access to housing.
That correct. Yes.
That which means the reason that scares us is because all these subdivisions are going to be built and the roads are not going to be adequate to manage them.
Okay. I absolutely will take that
I can
feedback,
just
Greg.
see that coming if there's going to be, rather than, to me, and I don't have a lot of background in city planning, but to me it seems like it would be a lot more efficient to repurpose some of these abandoned buildings and lots and stuff rather than tear down forests.
Right. Well, and I think that is the goal as well, Greg. So we really want to preserve um, open space for sure, and not only open space, but existing established neighborhoods and areas. So we were very intentional about, in these plans, at least we tried to be very intentional about recommending future growth where most appropriate, which is really why we focused a lot on centers in these documents. So
Mhm.
that's a neighborhood activity center, a community activity center, that type of thing, because we feel and we've heard that is probably most appropriate to support the most growth in an
Mhm.
effort to your point preserve established neighborhoods and open space because that is absolutely two very important goals in the comprehensive plan and these documents stemmed from that information.
I didn't hear the last half of that, but okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I cut out?
You froze
Yeah,
up.
you
Yeah.
froze up. I was about to jump in and
Oh,
do a rescue on that.
I'm so sorry. Oh, and I'm in the office. I'm so sorry. That's unfortunate. Well, I was just saying, Greg, I hope maybe I can summarize. We tried to be intentional about recommended future growth via
Mhm.
these documents and the center designations in an effort to preserve not only established neighborhoods, but open space, as those are important goals in the comprehensive plan. I
Right,
hope
but
that
and
was
that's
clear.
yes, that's clear. And that kind of leads to the reason for my question is a lot of times I've seen developers may have concerns about the area they're developing, but they don't take into account the collateral damage that they may be causing to surrounding areas, which had not been included or prepared. Like the road going to a new subdivision is only 2 lanes wide, for example. And it's the surrounding impact that these developers need to take into account.
Understood. Thank you for that comment. We've heard that throughout the process for sure. And I just want to reiterate that I am documenting comments and feedbacks this evening, and those will be cataloged and responded to.
Mhm.
Um, so we'll be posting those on the 25th of July. But yes, Greg, we've definitely heard that throughout the process and understand that frustration.
It's something else that everybody that he mentioned the Bridlestone meeting. Bridlestone is the next subdivision down from us in our little patch of Mecklenburg County. Is the question of annexation.
Hmm.
And the reason that comes up is, does your planning include any recommended annexation, possible annexation, or hell no, never annexation, or any idea about expanding the city itself? Is that part of the planning horizon as well?
Not this planning horizon. We
Mhm.
don't recommend or really speak. We don't speak to annexation in
Okay.
these documents. These are more so policy documents and guidance in terms of future land use, building
Mhm.
form, infrastructure, things of that sort. So we don't speak to annexation in these documents.
Okay. Do you
Greg,
know if, yes, what?
one thing you might want to note is that involuntary annexations are no longer on the table here. So
Ah,
if people, and that's been since 2011, and so if someone wants to join the city, they're going to have to say they want to join the city.
okay, good.
Yeah, yeah, and that goes for the towns as well. So um, that's kind of how that is. Involuntary
Okay,
annexations are off the table.
okay, that's good. Um, Related to that question then is, and you may not know the answer to this, do you know if Pineville has a similar planning document or process to this one? Since they're the most close other town other than Charlotte,
I do not know if the city of Pineville,
the city of Pineville.
has a land use document like this. I just don't want to provide you with inaccurate information.
I
So,
didn't think you probably in your scope, but that's
n-
what I'd ask.
no, I appreciate that question, but I just don't want to tell you any inaccurate information. So I'm not sure
Okay.
off the top of my head, Greg.
Okay.
And I don't want to fail to recognize Planning Commissioner Welton. He is on the call with us, and he has been helpful and jumped in on a few questions. So thank you, Commissioner Welton, and we're
Yeah,
happy to have you this evening.
yeah. Greg, are you sitting in front of the lake in Pineville?
No, that's the shot out my back door window.
Wow, that's
You
lovely.
see, we're in Woodside Falls. We have our own pond.
Okay, all right. That I was going to say, I think I've ridden my bike behind your house there or something, but no, not such. Okay.
Yeah, we're farther south. You didn't come in early enough to hear my introduction. We're in the non-incorporated part of down here. So
Oh, that little square mile that it
yeah,
isn't.
we call ourselves West Ballantyne.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You guys are not owned. You're not in anybody's sphere of influence, and the county would have to has a great deal of control over what you all do
Right.
in that small amount of space. And I, yeah, yeah.
We're like the
Anyway,
redheaded stepchildren of the redheaded stepchild.
yeah.
But yes,
I'll offer a hand that if you guys ever have some issue that you need to resolve, just I'm the chairman of the planning commission. Just send me an email and
okay.
I will be glad to come out and talk to folks. And because I think you guys had a rezoning out there a couple of years ago. Somebody was trying to do something, but I'm not sure it went through.
I think it got canceled or something because the signs are no longer up because
Yeah,
they were trying to turn a ravine into a 15-unit apartment complex.
yeah. So I don't know the details, but I do remember something was about to happen, and because of the uniqueness of your designation, that was why I was aware.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually the president of the HOA for Woodside Falls.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So,
I'd be glad to come out and talk to your HOA if you guys ever need somebody to just give you some background on what the Planning Commission does. So,
okay, that might be helpful. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, that's us. So that's why I'm kind of coming here to try to, take into account what's happening on the other side of the road.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of my concern is how is the stuff you guys are talking about may or may not affect us as collateral damage. Because if there's, the whole world needs more apartments. It's like if you're going to start building apartments all up and down Lancaster Highway, you're not going to have enough traffic, or no, not enough space for traffic. But okay, well, good. That helps me. And thank you for having these meetings.
Of course. Thank you, Greg. We really appreciate you joining this evening. Is there any other information I can point you in the direction of? Any other questions that we can answer for you this evening while we have you?
The question people always have here, and I alluded to it when Eric was on, was the water situation.
Yes. Um,
And you probably heard about that down here, maybe not. But everybody's complaining about how their water bills are so high. Carolina Water says that's because they're having to rebuild a plant behind us. And said people are up in arms. I get complaints about that all the time. And that's one of the big motivators for people thinking that they want to be annexed so that their Charlotte water prices are lower. Um, so that's kind of how it is in our world.
Understood, understood. Yes, and not the first we've heard of this concern, and definitely understand. I can't speak to the water in great detail, given that we are providing policy guidance and long-term planning and future land use. So again, I hate to fall short. I just don't want to provide you with
No, it's
any
fine.
inaccurate information in terms of water and capacity, or anything of that
Yeah.
sort.
The other thing would be trash pickup because we have at least three trash companies, and those huge trash trucks are just really tearing up our streets, which we pay for. Um, so some of the streets are privately owned, and we pay for this upkeep on them. Some of them are county owned, so we have to wait for the county to be on their schedule, and they're just getting torn up because we have so much um, trash truck traffic. So, but I don't know if you guys deal with that either. Utilities.
Um,
Is there utilities planning?
Utilities planning.
Yeah. Doug, are you in charge of utilities planning as well?
No, no, we're not. The Planning Commission does three things really. When the city or the county sells some property, we review and advise. When there is a rezoning in the city or its extraterritorial jurisdiction, which you are not a part
Which is
of, we review and advise. And this community area planning and long-term plans, we review and advise. And so we get a lot of things that kind of are tangential to that. I would like with Aaron, I don't want to give you any false information about that as well. I will just say that in North Carolina, only cities and the North Carolina Department of Transportation can build roads. So otherwise, it may be a private road, and you will be you're nodding your head because I'm sure you guys get an assessment about that from time to time, and you probably don't love those assessments, I guess, maybe that much.
well,
But
half of our roads are private.
yeah, yeah,
We have
and
to pay for we have to pay for all the trash truck damage ourselves.
yeah, yeah. And private roads provide some benefits when you're developing property because you probably have your stormwater retention and some of your utilities underneath the roads.
Hmm.
So that gives you more land to build on for housing and
Hmm.
perhaps build larger houses, et cetera, et cetera. But the flip side of that is you are also stuck with maintaining your own roads, which,
Yep.
you know, they're trade offs. I
Yeah.
will just say that they're trade offs.
All
And
righty.
Mr. Jones, I was going to let you know while you're speaking with Commissioner Welton, I did a little bit of digging into the comments and feedback that we've received because I know this is not the first time we've heard similar concerns to yours, which rightfully so. So I do want to let you know these are, of course, draft documents now, but given the feedback that we've received, we have not committed to anything, but we are recommending a potential policy be added to these documents that will speak to the ETJ and help to ensure that future development does not negatively impact um, levels of service in those areas.
Good.
So just to give you a little bit of, I know that's not bringing all the peace, but a slight peace of mind maybe. And again, everything is still in draft form, but there is a note that we will be trying to bring an additional policy that will help speak to some of that in these final documents. So I hope that provides a little bit of
That
peace of
that
mind.
helps.
Yeah.
Does the county have a similar, to ask about Pineville, but does the county have a similar planning map and process to this?
No, so the city and county, we work closely together. So they kind of partner with us on, um, these planning efforts, and we provide the future land use um,
So
for
if
this for the city, of course, but
your if,
the
if your
county
plan
does
here
not
doesn't
have
include
a.
us, yeah.
I'm sorry.
So since this your plan here only includes the city and the county doesn't have a plan, then how does that leave us? Without a plan?
I think the best way to explain that, and I'm not an expert, but I think the best way to explain that is that the city and the county are partnered planning, not department, but we coordinate in terms of planning efforts.
Okay.
But they do not have a comprehensive plan or
Right.
anything of that sort, but they are very plugged into the work that we're doing, and they're very involved in the conversations and the effort.
So they're involved with the work the city is doing,
Correct.
but they're not doing any work for just the county. Like again, where does that leave us? Do we don't have a plan? We're just gonna
I think I mean, I honestly don't know the exact answer to that. But my understanding is that we have a joint kind of partnership when it comes to planning,
Yeah.
Mecklenburg County and the city of Charlotte.
Aaron, I can give a little bit of explanation on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Greg,
please save her.
there are
Sorry.
there are 7 towns and cities in
Right?
Mecklenburg County. All
Yep.
right. The state of North Carolina in statute 160D says that municipalities and governing entities have to have a comprehensive plan. All
Hmm.
right. What happened, and I don't know when this actually happened, but let's pretend it happened about 2000. Um, the city and the county came to an agreement about how um, the planning efforts would go forward. There's an interlocal agreement. I am the chairman of the Charlotte Mecklenburg Planning Commission.
Hmm.
The rules for development and land use planning are handled and administered by the city, and that includes Charlotte and a small portion of Mecklenburg County that is adjacent to Charlotte. It's called the extraterritorial jurisdiction. So
Is that
that
is that us? The
no,
ETJ? We're not in the
you you
ETJ.
you are you are you are you all are in a very interesting position because you are not in anybody's ETJ. Pineville has their own space.
Uh-huh.
Matthews has theirs. Mint Hill,
Yep.
the cities up above. Some of them have ETJs, but this space where you all are is not anybody's ETJ. So you all are directly under the planning guidance of the county. Um,
Such as it is.
and yeah, and so um, I don't know what the county's plan is, and or if they have one or where it is, and or the county could have made some provisions to have the city's planning department administer that for them. I don't know what that is, but again, you all are in that one little square mile that is slightly different. If you were in, if you were in Steel Creek just below 160, I could tell you exactly how that would work. That's in the county, but not in the city. If you were on the east side over near Cabarrus County and the far east, there's a little chunk over there. I could tell you how that worked. I can't tell you about how Pineville's works or Matthews or Mid Hills works. Um, but there is an agreement, that interlocal agreement was signed between the city and the county. And that was, I believe the date I've seen on those documents is about 2003. So the administration of all of the land use and development planning has been handled by the city in Charlotte and in Charlotte's sphere of influence, our little bit of ETJ since then. Charlotte's about 310 square miles. Our ETJ is about 60 square miles. So,
so who can I ask about planning for us? Is that something I could ask Susan McDowell about?
I would ask Susan about that. I know that
Yeah.
she has actually raised a question or two about that in the past,
Okay.
but I would ask Susan about that very directly, and she probably has a better answer than I do.
Okay.
And Mr. Jones, I will also say
Okay,
that
All right.
because I'm covering my answer with all the CYA I possibly can.
Yes, I understand.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. My computer is freezing again, so that was my apologies. I was just going to point to the chat, Mr. Jones. I think
Mhm.
that may answer some of your questions. There is a current effort being done to kind of provide some guidance for that area via the planning department. I am not the expert on that project, but I think that website that I dropped in the chat will provide some insight to some of your questions.
Yep.
And in
Good.
short, yes, I think some people are talking about it, and there are some things in the works to kind of alleviate those concerns.
Okay. Well, be sure and let us know because we're all on the edge of our seats.
I believe there are some upcoming engagement meetings that will be hosted in August, and I think that
Yep.
information is on that website as well. So
Yep. I got
probably
it.
a good resource to look through. Um,
Okay. Well, thank you. This has been very helpful.
of course, thank you so much for joining us. And again, all of your feedback will be cataloged and responded to. We will be posting that information on the 25th of July. And if you have any other additional questions, feel free to, visit our website, reach out to us via email, and we're happy to help you how we can.
Not often you get a private audience with the chair of the planning commission.
Yeah,
We're
but
lucky to have him.
you got a private audience with Aaron, so there, that's the winner. How about that one?
All righty. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Thanks.
evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.